mindset change has made necessary change in management style in the digital age. So we'll, like last time, we will look at management style, then we will look at leadership style. Now, what is this diagram? Funny looking thing. It's a network diagram. Earlier, what did we have? How were organizations structured? They were structured hierarchical, top down. God on top and our we little employees at the bottom. Now the whole thing has become a flat organization, a fluid organization. Now these are all important, very interesting terms, and we could have a whole session on what is the fluid organization. Because some of you are going to walk into a fluid organization when you get a job. Okay, but anyway, so a network type of an organization, the boss is not there sitting on top, the boss is sitting with all of us on the floor, and decisions are not necessarily taken by the boss alone. They, the employees, the team members are empowered to take certain decisions, and we'll see how that happens. So for reference, I'm showing on the left what were the attributes of management style in the industrial age, and now let us see what are the attributes of management style in the digital age. One thing is very obvious, the hierarchical structure has now become a network structure. The bureaucratic structure has now become agile, flexible, open to change, can change rapidly. Here, smaller companies, and I am one of them, I run small companies, small to medium-sized companies. When I go into a bidding process with large companies, I am totally aware of the advantage I have because I am much more agile. I can be in a meeting and I can change my pricing in 2 seconds. I can say, all right, Mr. Client, instead of $470,000, we'll do it for $450. Go ahead. The big guys from Infosys, Tech Mahindra, they cannot take a decision. They'll say, okay, we have to ask our boss and come back to you tomorrow or day after or next Monday. The large companies lack agility. Smaller companies like are agile. We take risks, we decide, we make things happen quickly. So the new digital age management style recognizes and values the agile organization. Big topic. I'm sure you'll be taught this in your course, but important point to note, what was bureaucratic? Multiple steps, multiple people, multiple approval, multiple sign-off. Now it is agile. You are empowered to take decisions, you are empowered to go ahead. Earlier, while we had people following orders, now we had empowered workers. Again, empowering is like a huge topic for a whole session, but this is a very important difference because, as I said earlier, the millennials and all of you and some of us, we want to know why. Why do you want me to do this? Why are you looking at my lovely 50-slide presentation that I have worked on for the last whole week, and you're saying, I don't want all this. I just want 5 pages, 5 slides. Why? 20 years back, they would say, okay, 5 slides. Okay, sir, thank you. He'll go and poor guy, he will change everything. Now we ask, all right, I'll do 5 slides, but why? What's wrong with my 50 slides? And all of us at various levels are empowered to take micro decision, mini decision, big decision. When we send as a small to medium sized company, when I send one of my people to attend the client meeting, I tell him, you have been with me for 10 years, 15 years. Go ahead and take a decision, give them price breaks, do what you like, what you think is correct, we'll support you. Maybe you'll make a mistake, you'll learn from it. But the agile organization, the new organization cannot wait for sign off, calling people, sir, can I do this? Can I do that? No. Of course, empowerment has a very big foundation. How do you become empowered? Because the management gives you knowledge. The earlier management did not have to give you knowledge because what will you do with the knowledge? You are told this is how you do it. Instead of knowledge, you are given a procedure, steps to follow. The accounts payable clerk approving vendor invoices didn't have to understand why, what, how. Here are steps. Go check the purchase order. If the correct material has been invoiced, check the quantity, go check the good receipt note. Has store actually received this good? If yes, they had steps to follow. They didn't need knowledge. They needed procedure. The empowered worker needs knowledge, because if something happens which is not in the procedure, he doesn't have to go running to the boss. Yes, sir, you know what? I've never seen this before. Something strange has happened. No, strange is the new norm. It happens today, every day. You better take a decision and decide what you. If you, my guys call me and say, okay, this happened. What am I supposed to do? I'll tell him, you're on the field. You tell me what we should do. Go ahead. We tell our people nowadays, you're most welcome to come to us with problems, but also come with a solution. That this is the problem. Here is what I think is the solution. That's the way to work. Empowered workers. And the last point is very, very important. And Mr. Pillai mentioned this. Today, we don't have this reward and punish culture. We have entrepreneurs. You as employees, when you graduate and you go into companies, and especially if you go into progressive companies, smaller companies, you'll be like a mini entrepreneur. You'll feel that way. You'll be given the chance to innovate, to create value, not sit there and count, but create something. Again, very big topic. You cannot, boil the ocean in a few minutes, and I will share my slides with you. Okay, so this is what we have, the new management style in the digital age. And again, it's not our father's world anymore. A new mindset has come in, therefore new tactics are required. And this is how the new management is dealing with a new set of tactics. Now let's look at leadership style. So like last time, let us, I have created on the left-hand side, I have mentioned the management attributes, and we'll see how they map onto the different leadership, theories. So network organization, where there's no God sitting on top, require that so-called God to sit with us. The managing director, the CEO, the general manager is one of us, and he has to take more of a coaching approach. That, hey, you know what? Here is a problem, and this is the reason, this is the root cause analysis. In the industrial age, managers would hardly bother to talk about root cause analysis. Why do I need to spend my time explaining to this guy who I'm paying a salary and his job is to do what I tell him to do? Just tell him what to do. Today, we explain to people the root cause. This is how it is. This is the problem. These are possible solutions. We empower them with knowledge. Anyway, so we have a coaching approach. Leaders have a coaching approach. They have to have a coaching approach because the hierarchical structure is gone. It's a flat structure. If you're sitting and you're at the same level almost with the others, you have to coach them. You cannot direct them. You cannot tell them what to do and expect them to do it. The other thing is the digital age organizations are more democratic. You see, democracy in an organization is different from democracy in politics. In politics, every one of us have one vote, and our vote is as powerful as the vote of Modi or Biden or whosoever. My vote has equal value as Modi's vote. His vote is not more powerful. In a corporate setting, okay, democratic approach meaning, okay, we take everyone's opinion, but then the CEO, the managing director, his vote has a bigger value because he has more experience. He has seen success, he has seen failure. Okay, so it is democratic, but in a corporate setting, democracy is not everybody having the same value. But But you get the idea. So in a network organization, now we have leaders have to have a coaching approach and a democratic approach. Moving on, the agile organization again needs coaching approach, democratic approach, and there's a new thing called pace setter. A pace setter is a leadership style where the leader is obsessed with getting things done better, faster, better and faster, not just faster, but also quality has to improve. And the leader sets a high target and he himself works with the others to achieve those targets. Pace setter. He's like a captain of the football team. He's on the field. He's running, defending, scoring goals. Okay, so the agile management style of the digital age necessitates a coaching approach, a democratic approach, but also a pace setter approach. The empowered workers need visionary and transformational leadership. You see, earlier we looked at in the industrial age, leaders could be transactional because they rewarded and they punished. Now we have to be transformational because people ask questions, people have to be convinced, people want to know why do you want me to destroy my 50-slide presentation and create 5 slides? I want to know. Otherwise, I cannot do a good job. Transformational, you have to explain, you have to empower, you have to share knowledge, not just share procedure. That is transformational. And of course, you have to have the vision of where the company is going in order to empower people with the right knowledge to take good decisions. And of course, the last thing that we have seen, we have talked about is entrepreneurial style of management requires the visionary and the transformational style of leadership. So now, having seen all of this, we can probably summarize leadership in the digital age into one sentence, which is the digital age leader is a transformative and visionary leader who treats team members as equals, coaches them, serves them, drives them, listens to them. Okay, I think we forgot talking about servant leadership. A servant leadership, that whole concept started with Jesus Christ, because Jesus Christ used to wash the feet of his followers. He served them. So today's leaders have to serve the team members, work with them if they need something, do it for them. Okay. So that kind of brings me to the conclusion of what is leadership in the digital age. It is a transformative and visionary style of leader who treats team members as equal, coaches them, serves them, drives them, listens to them. And that brings me to the end, and thank you very much. Dr. Talukdar, back to you. I think you're on mute. I don't hear you.
Sir, it's really enlightening for all of us that how you described the digital era leadership, which comprises of agility, empowered workers, entrepreneurs, and how wonderfully it was described that how to transfer from the conventional leadership to the present digital era leadership. So we all are here to thank you all. Thank you especially for enlightening us for this nice presentation and speech. We are really indebted to you, sir. We'll again meet you in some other platform, hopefully. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I will send my slide deck to you.
Yes,
so that you can distribute to your students.
Sure, sir. Pillai sir is still with us. Any questions, sir? I think students are muted themselves. They're not saying anything. Students, do you have any question to Dr. Prabal? If not, Pillai sir, would you like to say something? Yes.
Yeah. Dr. Prabal, it was Fantastic. I was listening to your talk, and I first thought, I had told Dr. Mithali I'll be there for 1 hour, but your talk was so interesting and the subject was so interesting. So I stayed back. I listened for the whole thing, and except I removed my tie to be more.
That's so nice of you, sir.
I think you had said a very important point. I'm not going into the detail, but very important point, which I also subscribe to a very large extent. The leadership style has changed, and one of the things which has, say, in India, we still had, in the Western world, the leadership style has been different. People still talk on a one-to-one basis, even with the boss. Unlike in India, still that hierarchical things are still there. People used to call sir and all those things. Fine, I'm not going. But the COVID has really made a big change in the way the Indian leadership has been always thinking. From command and control, Indian leadership was basically command and control.
Correct.
It has actually come down to trust and delegation. Why I'm saying that? In the earlier, even when I was coming up my career, we used to see the bosses coming and walking around the office, seeing that whether the man is working, and he'll suddenly call him, "Kitna kaam kiya hai? Kitna kya? I told him to do heavy." They'll be always following up. So they used to enjoy controlling it, commanding it, and all the time looking at what is done. After the COVID came, and when the work from home concept started, the question of neither you can control, neither you can command. So both went off, and you are forced to trust the person. You are forced to trust your employees, and you are forced to delegate it. So I feel, in the terms of leadership, in terms of management, the COVID has really thrown in a very nice thing for the Indian leaders, Indian management, Indian organizations. The command and control has actually now shifted to trust and delegation, which is exactly what you have been also saying there.
Excellent.
So that's just an observation I thought I'll take it.
No, that's good. And in fact, that command and control, that's the right word. I have a article on HR on my LinkedIn profile, which talks about this command and control and how it has changed. And it's still an incomplete article. I've written 2 parts. But it's exactly, if we connect on LinkedIn, I'll share with you the article.
Please.
And seek your opinion on that. And I have had some criticism, by the way, on LinkedIn. People said, "Oh, this is all bullshit." Not bullshit. This is all theory. Doesn't work. And I said, yes. I mean, everything first is a theory, right? It's an idea. Some work, some don't. But we cannot say this is all theory, because everything starts with a theory. And if I was an expert, I would say this is how it works. No, I don't know. Like a fluid organization. And Mr. Pillai, you tell me. I mean, how do you define it's easy to say, "Oh, we need a fluid organization, an agile organization." I mean, you have led companies. I'm still in, doing that. Very difficult.
I agree with you.
But unless we discuss this concept and try to experiment with them, we will never progress. And that is where the B schools come in. The B schools have the platform and the people and the expertise and the students and the reach into the alumni to research, get opinion, okay, what is working, what do you see not happening, and write research papers from which we in the industry benefit. So I'm a big believer in academy working hand in hand with industry, big believer in that.
Dr. Prabal Dasgupta, sir, I have a small question for you. That is, during this long journey of entrepreneurship, how did you feel like managing entrepreneurship business to all 17 countries, almost in single-handed? How did you manage it, sir? How was the experience?
17 countries is a little bit of a myth. We have one major client in Netherlands, and they have branches, sales operation in different countries. So we go and do some work for them. Okay. But anyway, it's a good point. You see, I began my career, I was lucky to begin my career with Lakshmi Mittal. Okay, I worked for him, and in his company at that time, when I became a little successful and gained his confidence, if I needed something to be done, I needed to go and tell Mr. Mittal. Mr. Mittal will call somebody and say, "Pandey, Prabal is coming to you, just do it." As a result, under him, I absolutely did not learn the very, very important thing called consensus building. Zero. I needed to do something, just tell Mr. Mittal, it will get done. It will come and say, okay, what do you need? All right, Mr. Mittal has sent me. Boom, boom, boom. When I launched my first company, I saw nobody listens to me. And I have not built the skill of building consensus. So it was a nice eye-opener. And when I formed my first company, which actually was a great success because it was in the right time, right place in USA during the Bill Clinton era. So we succeeded, but then I had to learn how to build consensus. That's one thing. Secondly, success taught me, hey, we are great. It really did not teach me any leadership lesson. I'm telling you very frankly. It's only when two of my companies later on failed for no apparent reason, I learned most from them that why did failure happen, what happened, what did we do wrong. So the entrepreneurial journey has been a good one. I've gone through 9/11 when business collapsed. I've gone through the financial meltdown of 2008, when again we lost 40% revenue in 1 week. We survived, we learned to adapt. We got into debt with banks. I spent the next 5 years repaying that debt. But it has been a very, very learning experience. That's why today I like to speak to people who are in business schools. And one thing I say, which some people don't agree, I say the best business books have not been written because the best business book should have title like, Why Did I Fail Miserably? Now, nobody writes
We
the
are
book,
waiting for
nobody will
that
buy
book,
it.
sir. We are
Nobody will
waiting
buy
for
that
book
book.
from you.
I know, but if I publish a book saying, Why did I fail miserably? Nobody will buy it. Because they want to buy books which says 10 steps to success or 7 steps to wealth. You know, America is very, very procedural. They love clicking on things which say, oh, this is how you build a big, body, or you can be successful in dating or in your career. But the best business books are yet to be written, so they should say, I failed and this is what I learned. Anyway,
So you have proved in your life, sir, the failures are the pillars of success, rightly.
Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely.
It was really enlightening to talk to both of you, sirs. We should end the session. I know the conversation can go on and on, but we have to end here. It was really, I can't thank enough to both of you for being in this platform and talk to the students and with us. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.